Crypto Caesar Capital. It's the 4th of December 2024. Hope you're well. Just before we start the video, just a shameless plug here for the group. If you want to join the VIP group, then please reach out to us either through the website or via Twitter. Right now we're doing a discount on the premium membership to $365. That is only going to last for another 48 hours. So it's usually $499, but it's $365 on a late Black Friday offer, given that we are now in an alt season. So $365 for a full 12-month membership. That's $1 a day. So go and check it out, and you can either email the team via our website, or you can reach out directly to me on Twitter if you feel as though you would rather do it that way. Okay, let's start the video. So we are finally here, guys. Alt season is beginning. This is now the beginning of the mania phase, and alt season has begun. It's begun with the higher caps like XRP, for example, like Doge. Link is another one, but we are definitely now in an alt season. You know, I did a talk in Dubai at GITEX Global almost, well, I'd say it's probably about 13, 14 months ago now. And I was saying at that conference that we, and I've said it on this channel many times as well, that we needed to get to at least 58% dominance before we would see the alt starting to run. No one really wanted to hear that. Lots of people were calling alt seasons over a year ago, which was just completely ridiculous in my view. Before an alt season can start, Bitcoin dominance needs to be super, super high. There needs to be a lot of confidence in Bitcoin before that liquidity starts to drip down into the altcoins, or indeed the market becomes a little bit more less or more comfortable, let me put it like that, and is willing to put more risk on the table. And that's where we are now. So for those who've been through and listened to all of my videos, who've been to the conferences that I've attended talking about this, we are finally here. It's been a long haul, but we are finally here. As you can see, Bitcoin dominance actually got up to 61%. So it was a slight deviation above this clear area of resistance. That wasn't surprising at all, but it is now broken down below the 58%. It's closed a weekly candle below 58%. So in my view, I think it's very unlikely that it's going to get above 58% again. I mean, it could come back up to test 58%, but I think that the likelihood is now that we are now starting, or Bitcoin dominance is now starting to break down to the downside. Of course, it's not going to all happen at once, but it's slowly going to move its way down towards this area of the low 40% marks. And as you can see, you know, and I'm sure you've watched all my videos previously, but if you haven't previously, you will see that you can see all the alt seasons here mapped out. This was the beginning of the first alt season. I remember it well. Back in sort of January 2017, Bitcoin dominance was at 95% at that point, and then it just started its way down, and that's when the alts went absolutely crazy. Same thing again in December 20. Bitcoin dominance was 73, 74% or so at that point. Then it started to break down, move lower, and that's when the alts began to run. And here we are. We did 61 point whatever percent, and we are now breaking down below 58%. And in my view, I think it is more likely than not that alt season has now begun. So it's been a long road, but we are there now, and it's a pretty exciting time to be in crypto. Where it goes from here, I'm not entirely sure, but likely it's going to be going towards this area I call the death zone of in the sort of low 40s. We could get down close to it, or we could go straight into it. But I can tell you now, if we get into this area of 42% downwards from 42%, I would be very, very cautious at that point, because that marks always the euphoric top tops, rather plural, of the market. So that was the top in 2018 for all altcoins. This was arguably the top in May 2021 for most altcoins, although the Bitcoin top was around about here. And again, Bitcoin dominance very, very low. So be very, very cautious if we get into this box, because this box to me is an area where you should be looking to take profit in your positions. And I would even say I would get cautious as we approach or break down through this area of 48%. That's when you want to start exercising caution. But if we get into this box, this green box, then it's time to sell, in my view. Not financial advice, but certainly that's what I will be doing. Now you can see here I've tracked out the midpoints. You're probably thinking to yourself, what on earth does a midpoint mean? Well, looking at the Bitcoin 4-year cycle chart, you can see I've mapped out the midpoint in each cycle. This is our fourth 4-year cycle. This is not the 4-year cycle or the halving cycle. This is the 4-year cycle measured from low to low. These are the lows in the cycle, and they come in every 4 years. It's a coincidence at the moment that the tops come in at 4 years as well. So from this top to this top, 4 years, from this top to that top, 4 years. So it's potential that we could have another 4-year top, which would mean the top would be somewhere in the region of Q4 2025. But that is something I'm not sure of. What I'm fairly sure of is that the low will come Q4 2026. Where the top comes, I'm not entirely sure yet. But if you follow this channel and if you join our group, you will be able to have access to all the experts within there who will be looking very, very closely at lots of different indicators that we look at when trying to gauge a top. No one's going to be able to gauge the top exactly, but in this game it's about buying low and selling high, and hopefully we'll certainly be able to get a good gauge on when things are looking a bit toppy. But anyway, back to the midpoint. So 4-year cycles are essentially measured from low to low. So each respective low here, these downward lines, or vertical lines rather, measure the low. So from this low to this low is 4 years. From this low to this low is 4 years. And each low, a new cycle is born and an old cycle dies. And essentially the midpoint is the halfway point between that 4-year cycle from low to low. And what's really interesting, which I'm sure you know, having watched this channel, if you haven't, at every midpoint previously, Bitcoin has always been attacking its previous all-time high. That was the previous all-time high. That was the midpoint. This was the ultimate high in the first cycle. The midpoint in the second cycle, what was Bitcoin doing at that point? Attacking the all-time high. This was the ultimate high in the cycle of 2017. What was Bitcoin doing at the midpoint in November 20? It was attacking its previous all-time high. And now Bitcoin threw us off a little bit this time because it actually got up slightly above the all-time high, but then consolidated. Everyone thought maybe we were looking at a left translated cycle, so did I, which was a reasonable concern to have at that point because there was a potential of Bitcoin topping out sooner, but it didn't do that. In fact, it just consolidated for a 7-8 month period underneath the all-time high. And then what did it do around about the midpoint? About a week before the midpoint, you set your clock by it almost, it attacked the all-time high, and now it's trading at around about 96,000 US dollars. So it was right on time at the midpoint here, right on time at the midpoint here. It seems to be a theme within the cycle. So that says to me, at this stage, we are still looking at a 4-year cycle. And therefore we will likely find our low in Q4 2026. But what's interesting, and the reason why I mapped out the midpoint in the Bitcoin dominance chart is because what happens on each occasion at the midpoint in Bitcoin dominance chart? Midpoint here, what happens? Bitcoin dominance breaks down. Midpoint here, what happens? Bitcoin dominance falls down. What happened here at the midpoint? Bitcoin dominance started to break down. And what does that mean? That means that altcoins, or at least some altcoins, the better altcoins will start to outperform Bitcoin. And that's exactly what's happening. We hit the midpoint. Bitcoin travels past its all-time high. There is lots of excitement within the market, people are then willing to take more risk. And by taking more risk, they are willing to buy altcoins rather than just the king, Bitcoin. So it's really nice to see this, because this is something we've been looking at for years now, and it seems to just be doing exactly what we thought it was going to do. It got to the midpoint, Bitcoin surpassed its all-time high, and Bitcoin dominance started to break down. So everything seems to be going to plan. We've obviously got to exercise caution, keep an eye on the market, but everything looks pretty good at the moment. Now, as for Bitcoin, Bitcoin at the moment is just consolidating above the high it made the other day at 99,456 or thereabouts. So there probably might be a little bit of consolidation here, which could mean a little bit of volatility. It certainly needs to sort of take a breather at the moment before it continues its move to the upside. But I'm fairly sure that we will likely see 100k Bitcoin, although we've seen 100k Bitcoin on the CME futures, but I think we'll see 100k spot Bitcoin by year end. That I'm fairly sure of. Then quarter one of 2024, there might be a bit of a pullback there, but I think generally speaking that quarter is going to be pretty good for Bitcoin. And higher prices will be achieved during that point. As to the ultimate all-time high, as you all know, I'm not really one for making price targets, but I prefer to time the market rather than wait for a price. But given the sort of bullishness in the market at the moment, given that so many institutions are coming in and talking Bitcoin, and given the Trump administration coming in January, who are very pro Bitcoin and talking about a strategic reserve for Bitcoin, I think there really is now the possibility that we could get close to the top of this channel here. This channel's been good for a number of years, and there is a possibility that we might be able to reach out up towards the 200k mark for Bitcoin. But we just have to wait and see to see what happens. But right now, it seems to me that the stage is set, unless there is some form of huge financial crisis. But in the next 6 months or so, I think that Bitcoin is going to continue trending higher. And of course, the altcoins, as Bitcoin dominance breaks down, will, or some of them will at least, start to outperform Bitcoin. So let's just have a look quickly at some of the altcoins, like, for example, XRP. This is one of the altcoins that we recommended to the group back in September 2023. Caesar Capital put together a very long research document, 33 pages long, where we identified 10 altcoins that we thought were going to perform very well in this cycle. XRP was one of them. And that's exactly what it's done. I just thought that this just looked like a really nice directional trade. You just see how it just sets up in these big triangles and then breaks out, sets up, breaks out. I mean, last cycle it was impeded somewhat by the fact that it was, it had terrible headwinds with the SEC, etc. But now all of those headwinds are essentially now tailwinds, and there's been this huge area really of consolidation. I mean, it's sort of been consolidating technically from April 21 until October 24. So that's a significant period of consolidation. And what they say in trading is the longer the base, the higher in space, and that's exactly what it's done. It's now breached this high that it made in April 21, and has also tapped its previous all-time high back in December of 2017. I mean, with XRP, it's a bit tricky because and on some exchanges it reached a much higher price. But I'm looking at Bitstamp, which I think was is a fairly kind of good exchange to look at, specifically for back in 2017-18, and its ultimate high I think was on that wick at $3.33. So it kind of it almost breached that, but at the moment it's just again consolidating. And for me, I think that $5 is certainly going to be achieved this cycle, and it could run significantly higher than that. But we just have to keep an eye on it. But at the very least, I think $5 is going to be achieved, but it could well be a bit higher than that. But as I say, we'll keep an eye on it. Another one that we recommended to the group back in September 2023 when I released the research document. One of the other 10 was SUI, and SUI has performed extremely well. We gave the call to buy around about here when it was trading around about 43 cents. It's now trading at $3.59. There was a nice pullback, another opportunity to get in, and we gave the call to the group again there at 46 cents. So, that trade at the moment has been pretty good, the return being 871%. So can't grumble with that. Our primary, or at least my primary target back in all the way back in October 23 was around about the $8 mark. But, we're kind of halfway there. And the mania phase of Bitcoin and the altcoins has only really just started. And if you look at the charts, sorry for going in and out charts, but if you look at this chart, it's at the midpoint. After the midpoint, the mania phase begins. Midpoint, mania phase, midpoint, mania phase, and we're only just starting this mania phase. So it's really hard to say how high this thing can go. But what I can tell you is that I've met the team of SUI were in Dubai at a crypto conference, and I think I met them in October 23, just after I'd advised the group to look at this as a potential asset to invest in. And I was just, blown away by what they were telling me. And, they've really proved that they were going to do what they said they were going to do. And SUI is pretty much taking on Solana. All you have to do is look at GitHub and look at all the commits in GitHub and look at what they're doing, how many developers are working on the network, and how many shitcoins or meme coins they've released on the SUI network. I think it's about 52 at the moment. So they really are taking on the Solana network. So if you're trying to take on Solana, then, SUI could get to $20. It could get to $20, but let's keep our hats on and not get too bullish. To be honest, whilst I really enjoy this phase, this mania phase, for someone who's been in this market now for 8 years, I tend to get a little bit anxious during these periods, because really you should be looking at this as a wall of worry. And you should be looking to take profits at some point, certainly next year. So there it is. That's a video for today. Everything's looking really good. There's going to be a bit of chop solidation along the way. There's going to be pullbacks along the way. But we are now entering the mania phase. We are now, in my view, firmly into the alt season period. So those who have been able to hodl all this way, then give yourself a pat on the back. I think the best is yet to come. So good luck with that. If you want to join the group, as I said, we've got the deal at the moment, late Black Friday deal, $365 instead of $499. Reach out to us either via the website or reach out to me directly on Twitter. This offer will only last another 48 hours. I hope you have a good day. Take care. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.